What is good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Sanjit back at it with another video. I'm really excited watching that game, man. And I hope you guys can hear me. Let me know in the comments below if you guys can actually hear me. I don't want to talk if you guys can't hear me down in the comments. So, uh, what an interesting game, man. What an interesting game. Obviously, the Raiders were not able to win at the end, but a lot of really good things, in my opinion, that I feel like you can kind of take out of that game. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to let a couple more people kind of get in here. Also, someone confirm you guys can hear me down in the comments below. I'm also going to pull up some stats really quickly of that game. All right, let's get into this. All right, got the stats pulled up right here. Then let's just start this off right away. Let's just start right away and talk a little bit about Geno Smith and kind of how he looked, and we'll just kind of go from there at that point. Uh, one of the interesting things that I felt like right away with Geno Smith is this guy came in first play, bootleg to the right, he hits his guy wide open. I forget who it was that got that first catch. Uh, but even after he hit Geno Smith on that first catch, Geno Smith got that completion. I felt like he did a pretty good job. He hit Dante Thornton right in his hands. He obviously ended up dropping it. They ran a pretty nice screenplay to Jacoby, hit him in the hands. He ended up dropping it as well. I felt like the Raiders, Geno Smith looked pretty good, right? Obviously, I would have loved to be able to kind of see him take more snaps, but obviously that's not something we were going to see in a preseason game. I see a lot of people saying to make your audio higher. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can do this here. Hopefully that's a little bit higher. I'm not sure, if it's gonna come through. I have a different microphone plugged in. Uh, I hope you guys can hear me. I really do hope you guys can hear me. Some people are saying it got worse, bro. I'm not sure if that's referring to the microphone or not, but uh, it is what it is. Let me see if put it back. Let me change that back. All right, I'm gonna just leave it right there. Uh, if you guys can, just give me a second. Let me just see if I can change my microphone out. If the microphone, if it's not, if you guys tell me if you guys can hear me now. All right, give me 1 second. All right, I'm gonna go back to this other mic. Uh, Hopefully it's connected. All right, let's see if this works a little bit better. All right, cool. Someone said it's good now. All right, apologies about that, man. I got a new microphone, but we'll just go back to the old microphone for live videos. But regardless of that, man, let's talk about this. Let's talk about some of this stuff that's let's talk about some of this stuff that we need to talk about. First and foremost, Geno Smith to me looked really good. He looked comfortable out there as well. I'm gonna be honest, you guys. I think one of the things with Geno Smith is that he's one of those guys where once he kind of gets on rhythm, he really gets it going. I felt like on that first drive we looked good with Smith out there. But once Smith kind of came off the field, Colt Miller came out, Dylan Parham came off the field as well. I feel like at that point the offense kind of struggled a little bit. They left Ashton Jeanty out there. They gave him a couple of snaps with the backups. Both Thayer Munford and Caleb Rogers on two separate plays missed blocks, and I believe he lost like 4 yards on those two runs combined. The run game was not great for the Raiders at all. Generally speaking, it was not good.
It got better as the game kind of went on. Chris Collier, I think, was the running back at the end of the game. He had a couple of nice runs. Um, I saw a couple of nice runs from me. That 16-yard run. Dylan Labe had a 24-yard run as well. Outside of those two runs, Raheem Mostert's run went for 11 yards as well. Outside of those three runs, the Raiders didn't have a lot of success running the football. Um, to me, I feel like the Raiders are going to have to fix some things, right? On the offensive side, Jordan Meredith to me didn't really look that good. Um, so I feel like it's one of those things where for the Raiders, you got to figure out that offensive line. I think it's going to be the key part for the Raiders. You have to absolutely figure out the offensive line. Uh, if the Raiders can't figure out that offensive line, I think they're going to struggle this season. Truth be told, the fact that Jordan Meredith and Jackson Powers Johnson played not only the entire first half, but they came out in the second half, right? They took an entire drive in that third quarter, and it didn't look great from the offensive line, generally speaking. And I think a lot of the offensive line looking good or not also kind of starts with the center. It just didn't look great. But we can also recognize that Colt Millen and Dylan Parham, Geno Smith, these guys only played one drive, right? So we can't 100% say that the Raiders are either bad or the Raiders are good on the offensive line, given that our backup quarterbacks are in, given that our backup left tackle, left guard came in pretty much right away. So regarding the offensive line, we'll just kind of see how it looks as we go forward. But I'll be honest, you guys, I'm not a huge fan of Jordan Meredith playing center. I did focus in on him a little bit on certain snaps, and to me, he kind of reminded me of Andre James out there, right? Uh, so we'll see, right? We'll see. Obviously tomorrow, I'm gonna probably get up super early in the morning so I can get to the tape and kind of start watching the tape right away. Um, my hope is just that pretty much right away that the tape's available and we can kind of start that film breakdown. Some people have talked about DJ Glaze as well. I saw on social media he was trending a little bit. Some people were like, "Hey, DJ Glaze really struggled out there." I'll be honest with you guys. I only watched him a couple plays. There was one play that was noticeable that he lost on because I think they did like the replay and I think they may have pointed it out as well. But um, I feel like with DJ Glaze, we'll kind of wait to watch the tape tomorrow and just kind of see what it looks like. We'll also see what some of the other guys look like, right? On the offense, even on the defense, kind of can't make that same point. A guy that looked really good out there, man, was Jamal Adams. And tell me if you guys agree with me on this. Jamal Adams looked really, 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 really good for the Raiders. Uh, you know, we know that he looked good. We've known that he took first team snaps for the Raiders in practice, but Jamal Adams did not start for the Raiders at linebacker. But you can make the argument he looked like the best linebacker out there for the Raiders, right? You can make that argument. Jamal Adams came out there and he was just doing a lot of really, really good things. And I want to watch Jamal Adams take some snaps with the first team unit. Now the Raiders can struggle on defense a little bit, even with the first team unit, right? Drew Lock got the Seahawks backup, basically the entire backups for the Seahawks. Uh, those guys literally drove downfield on the Raiders starting unit. And of course, Isaiah Pollamalu got a really, really nice pick. But some people are concerned a little bit. Like, is the Raiders defense bad, right? Like Drew Lock and the backups kind of drove downfield on us. I think there were a couple of issues with the defense, and again, a lot of this we're gonna watch the tape tomorrow and kind of figure out what really happened. But one of the things that I noticed right away was like there was one play where Jeremy Chin did not set the edge, and the running back hit for like 19 yards because he didn't set the edge. There were some other plays in which like no one got out into the flats, so they pick up 20 yards because no one was out in the flats, right? It was like basic things that I feel like you can kind of clean up. And obviously that's going to take some time, right? Like the point of preseason is to get ready for the regular season, right? What we saw yesterday, none of that really matters, right? Or, I'm sorry, what we saw in this game earlier, none of that really matters, right? What's going to matter is what happens come week one. Tommy Eichenberg looked kind of good out there as well, right? He was kind of flashing a little bit as well. Jamal Adams looked really, really good. So I wouldn't be surprised if those two guys, maybe jump up into that first team unit, maybe get some snaps. Right, Devin White didn't look all that good. He had a missed tackle. Another thing to note is, we played a lot of base defense out there. Right, with the first team unit, we basically were playing base defense, and our defense doesn't go out there saying, "Hey, we need to like simulate pressure and blitz and do all these crazy things to get off the field." They're trying to practice certain things. I'm pretty sure on that first drive we went basically with our base defense, which we're not going to play base, generally speaking. When we're out there, essentially, right? Um, so yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? We'll see what the defense kind of looks like as we kind of go forward. A lot of you guys are saying it, obviously, right? A lot of people are saying the defense, is vanilla and those type of things. Um, it is just kind of what it is, right? It's preseason at the end of the day. Um, I also do want to just kind of talk a little bit about the backup quarterback battle. A lot of people, have been talking about Aiden O'Connell, Cam Miller. Cam Miller surprised the hell out of me. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, man. We heard that Tom Brady kind of gave Cam Miller that shout out, right? Like, this is the guy you kind of want. He has a bunch of untapped potential. The guy surprised me, man. 6 of 7, 76 yards and a touchdown. Of course, he had was a 41-yard touchdown to Shedrick Jackson, who also looked really good for the Raiders. But more than that 41-yard touchdown, what kind of stood out to me was the fact that at the end of the game, the Raiders needed to kind of get into field goal range. He drove us downfield, and he essentially got Daniel Carlson an opportunity of a 55-yard field goal. Although we lost the game, we cannot overlook the fact that in a clutch moment, this guy essentially delivered. And this guy is clutch, right? Something that in college he had kind of done in the past is he's always kind of been clutch, right? He's a winner in college. And for the Raiders, the very first opportunity this guy had, he showed up, right? And to me, Cam Miller right now, if I'm picking quarterback 2 for the Raiders, it has to be Cam Miller. But obviously, do recognize that this is one game, right? If the Raiders, and we'll see, right? Maybe Cam Miller is the better quarterback, but I would think that if Cam Miller was the better quarterback, the Raiders would have already made him, they would have already made him the QB2, right? And they would have already looked to potentially trade Aiden O'Connell, or I guess maybe they could just be giving this guy an opportunity to potentially prove himself. I don't know, right? But I do like the fact that Cam Miller stepped up in that first game. He was able to obviously, he was obviously able to kind of make it happen, right? Another guy that looked good to me on the offensive side was obviously Dylan Labe. He made a couple of nice plays. I think he had a punt return as well. That was pretty nice. Aiden O'Connell looked terrible. Right? He had Dante Thornton wide open, and it should have been a touchdown, and he ended up under throwing it. It was intercepted. Thornton looked good too. I know he had the drop, but like, there's just something about Thornton out there and the way he kind of runs routes and just like the presence that he has kind of out there. Geno Smith obviously threw a really, really nice back shoulder pass, and Thornton hits him in the hands. He dropped it, but just the fact that Geno Smith has that trust in a rookie wide receiver to me kind of stood out. Trey Tucker had the first catch. I think it was a 15-yard catch. These guys came out, and this guy hit him, right in stride, 15 yards, just like that. Defense, it is what it is. Some people did ask me about, my thoughts on Malcolm Koonce, right? Some people were like, hey, Malcolm Koonce kind of looks slow out there a little bit. I do think he did look slow, right? He looked a step slow. And it's unfortunate because with Malcolm Koonce, he did have the ACL injury, and it's going to take him a little bit of time to kind of get healthy and kind of get right. We'll just see what ends up happening, right, with Malcolm Koonce as he goes forward. My hope is that he kind of develops and gets back to that point of where he was at that point where he was, on the track to becoming a really, really, really good football player. I'm going to read some of your guys' comments. I want to know what you guys think about this game. What are your thoughts? Who are some guys that kind of stood out? Is there one player that stood out more, than another player? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Some people are saying Ricky's saying that Thomas doesn't look like a fluid runner. I don't know if I 100% agree with that. He looked good out there to me, but we'll have to watch the tape, obviously, to really figure that out. Someone else said audio garbage, not able to hear him. Volume's at 33% over here and can hear him fine. He's saying other people's volume's garbage. I'm sorry, man. I don't know, what's wrong with the audio. It is what it is. I'll get it fixed though for the next live video. Um, Someone said run blocking was garbage. That's a fact, man. There's just no way you can have that offensive line unit block like that as we kind of go out there. I was watching some of the highlights at halftime, and I hope this is not the situation. I don't think it is, right? I just think that maybe we have some backups in. But like the way guys are stepping on like zone runs, the way guys are like stepping left, for example, on a zone run, guys just didn't look smooth out there. They just did not look good out there, right? Just didn't look like everybody was kind of on the same page. And I hope it's because it was like backup players at that time when I was watching those plays. But it just didn't look good for the Raiders run game at all. And obviously do keep in mind that we have we have Geno Smith, we have Colt Miller, we have Dylan Parham, and these guys were all out. And it could make a difference. And then obviously it's a new run game, right? Kind of being installed with a rookie running back, kind of revamped on the offensive line as well. I'm gonna give it some time. I'm gonna give it some time. Felipe says that Caleb Rogers looked good at left guard. I don't personally agree 100% with that. Ashton Jeanty lost 5 yards on a run play because Caleb Rogers just whiffed on the linebacker. There were a couple other passing plays that I saw him lose, and then Anaconda was pressured. But obviously he did play probably like 25 snaps. So I will go back tomorrow, and I will definitely rewatch Caleb Rogers. So the video for tomorrow, if you guys are wondering, in the morning, 6 o'clock, I'll be awake, and I'm gonna start watching the entire game, and I'll probably pick out like 6 guys that kind of look good to me or guys that kind of want to talk about, and I'm gonna watch every single one of those guys snaps specifically. So like DJ Glaze, for example, Charles Grant, for example, and we'll do like a general video of those like 5 or 6 guys. I'll just give you my thoughts and opinions on those guys. Maybe I'll drop a second film breakdown as well during the day at some point tomorrow. But I'm excited as hell to kind of get into the tape with some of these guys. Caleb Rogers is definitely one of those guys that I really, really want to watch. He's supposed to be the future at guard for the Raiders, right? So I felt like he had some losing snaps, but it's not a huge deal if you have losing snaps. At the end of the day, you're a rookie 3rd round pick. You're gonna lose. You got to develop. You got to get better. And development's a real thing, obviously, right? A lot of people have talked about Thomas Booker. I did not know this. The Raiders have another defensive tackle with the last name Booker. His name's Tank Booker. I think some people may have confused the two guys at some point. I definitely got confused. There was a time when the other Booker made a play, and I thought it was Thomas Booker. But there's 2 Bookers, so I'm going to go back. Now, obviously, Thomas Booker, the guy we just brought in, he did flash a little bit. I think he had at least like 2 plays where like the broadcast crew pointed it out. Booker did look good though, man. So I felt like our defensive tackles, generally speaking, it's just me being honest, were straight up trash, like trash. And I say that like to be nice as well. Our D tackles, man, did not look good to me at all. Specifically, the guys that were like starting. I saw Tyree Wilson getting pushed back on double teams like 5-6 yards. Adam Butler's Adam Butler. He's a good football player, but like Jonah Laulu did not flash to me at all. And he had, I think, 2 holding penalties. Zachary Carter, I don't even know if he was out there, to be honest. I'm pretty sure he was out there. There were a couple of people out there at the D tackle position that were like just getting straight up pushed back. The rookies were out there playing as well. And, it didn't look great to me personally, right? And I think it's one of those things for the Raiders where you got to figure it out, right? You really, really have to figure that position out because we struggled to stop the run, right? We really struggled early on in the game with the first team unit. Even after that first series, Maxx Crosby obviously came off the field. Our starting linebackers, I believe Jermaine Pratt, Landon Roberts, I believe those 2 guys came off the field after the first drive. I know Jeremy Chin definitely came off, but everybody else was still out there. Like Isaiah Palomar was out there until probably the second quarter, like the middle of the second quarter. We had guys like Darian Porter out there for pretty much the first half. And, Tyree Wilson played the entire first half. Malcolm Koonce, I'm pretty sure played the first half, if not the first quarter and a half. It just it just didn't look good to me, right? I just felt like those guys did not look good. And I know Tyree Wilson made some plays. He definitely made some plays out there, but we have to realize the Seahawks had their backup offensive lineman in. Like they didn't have Charles Cross out there. They didn't have Oluwatimi or Abraham Lucas. Like these guys had all their backup players in. And yeah, Tyree Wilson made some plays, but like he should have been making plays. Tyree Wilson should have been dominating. And he definitely made like 2 or 3 plays. But I don't know. I just feel like it's one of those things where the Raiders' defensive line against a backup offensive line, like Malcolm Koonce was out there an extended amount. Tyree Wilson was. Jonah Laulu was apparently supposed to start for the Raiders. He was out there for the entire first quarter. None of these guys really, truly, truly, truly flashed to me, right? Especially in pass rushing situations. Uh, it is what it is. We'll see as kind of go forward how things kind of look. Uh, Jeff said, please review Jackson Powers Johnson if you can. I'm curious how you think because I saw him not look good, but I trust your analysis on the O line. I will definitely check out Jackson Powers Johnson. I watched him probably like 8 or 9 plays. I didn't noticeably notice that like he's losing. I don't remember seeing any plays that Jackson Powers Johnson just straight up lost. And I did see Jackson Powers Johnson at least put 1 or 2 guys into the ground. So it's interesting to me that he did play as long as he did. He played into the third quarter, which is kind of crazy. But both him and Jordan Meredith both played into the third quarter. And I believe DJ Glaze played the first half, and I believe he played the entire first half, but he definitely played an extended amount of time as well. And I wonder if Jackson Powers Johnson's playing because they don't trust him, they don't think he's good, or if they want him to get comfortable at right guard because that is his position as we kind of go forward. Right? Powers Johnson has not played right guard in basically 3 years. Right? So I wonder, what it is that the Raiders are trying to, kind of get done here. It's kind of crazy to me, and I'll be honest, guys, man. I find it kind of crazy that Jackson Powers Johnson, if it's not just to get him used to the position, if they think, hey, he's not a good football player, therefore we're gonna make him earn it or whatever it is, to me that's kind of crazy, right? Jackson Powers Johnson tape speaks for itself. There's a lot of people that I've spoken to that feel the same way that I feel, that are a lot more smarter than me, right? When it comes to O-line, D-line, those type of things. To me, we'll see how things kind of play out. I think the Raiders would be better off, honestly, moving Powers Johnson back to center. I don't think Jordan Meredith looked all that good. Again, I don't know. I think the Raiders' offensive line, I actually spoke about this a long, long, long time back. When the Raiders invested in Alex Kappa, I did not agree with that, right? Because I did not think Alex Kappa was that good of a football player. And they just rolled forward. Dylan Parham, Alex Kappa, Jordan Meredith. These are going to be the guys that we're going to roll into this season with. I wasn't 100% in agreement with that. Obviously, they went out. They drafted Caleb Rogers. But Rogers is a rookie player, right? He wasn't a first or second round pick, right? He was a late third round pick. And he had some struggles as well today, right? So, we'll see what the Raiders' offensive line looks like. But, right now, in my opinion, the Raiders' offensive line could be the crutch that holds the Raiders' offense back, right? So we'll just see kind of what happens. I'm going to get into a couple more of your guys' comments. I agree 100%. Mob says Jamal Adams, best linebacker tonight. A lot of you guys are saying the same thing. Yoba is saying our DJ Glaze had some losses for sure. He definitely did. I think a lot of the guys definitely did have some losing snaps, right? Meredith had some. I'm pretty sure Jackson Powers Johnson had some because I saw a lot of people commenting about that. I didn't watch him on every play, right? Just so you guys know. JJ Morris says, what do you think of Darren Porter because of what you thought about him? I honestly thought he looked pretty good, given that he is a rookie. I didn't expect him to go out there and just like shut a guy down, but like he ran with, there was one play where both him and Isaiah Paul-Amal, a guy ran a post route, and both of those guys, they're in cover 3 on that play. From the replay, they both just stuck right on top of that guy, right? And it's hard to tell with corners because, we only see the O-line, D-line, quarterback until the ball's thrown. And then you only ever really see a guy if he either breaks the pass up or if he gives up a catch. Personally, I felt like Darian Porter looked good. Eric Stokes definitely looked good as well. The Cameron Richardson didn't look as good to me, but it's also kind of hard, again, to really see what those guys look like out there. Uh, we'll watch the tape, right? Watch the tape, and I'll kind of get back to you guys on that. Um, Someone said Aiden O'Connell is terrible. Uh, I think most people saw the same thing with AOC. I'm not a huge fan. I think he's a good backup quarterback, but uh, not a huge fan. I think one of the things we saw in today's game, I believe it was the second interception he threw. If you guys don't know Mike McDonald, the head coach of the Seahawks, he's considered one of the great defensive-minded guys kind of around the NFL. And he did what is called a simulated pressure. They brought 5 guys, and they dropped 2 of their defensive linemen off to the left. And Aiden O'Connell felt the pressure to his right, and he threw the ball anyways with guys kind of underneath. He kind of threw it high. Pass gets intercepted. Mike McDonald, like in a preseason game, to run that is just ridiculous, right? Because most coaches aren't doing that. Most coaches are running like vanilla defense, vanilla offense. Not that guy, man. He's throwing it out there, right? I guess it makes sense. So if you're gonna run that a lot, which he obviously will, if you're gonna run that a lot, it makes sense to practice it, right? In my opinion, I think it kind of just makes sense. A lot of people are saying O-line, D-line was asked tonight. I agree with that. It was not great. There might have been moments here or there, but generally speaking, it was not great. Shedrick Jackson on fire. Talk about him. Jackson did look really, really good. He obviously had the 41-yard touchdown pass. He had 3 other catches. So he had 4 catches, 76 yards. He obviously had a touchdown. I didn't really hear much about Jackson in camp, which is kind of crazy. Jackson was a guy I didn't really hear much about. Even Cam Miller, right? People weren't saying like Cam Miller looks really, really good. People were saying Aiden O'Connell looks really, really good, right? And we kind of saw in this first game that Cam Miller looks a lot better than Aiden O'Connell. Obviously, it's just one game, and we do have to recognize that one game, is not the end all be all, right? Aiden O'Connell was taking snaps as early as with the first group that the Seahawks kind of had out there, right? Cam Miller played in the fourth quarter, so a lot of those guys are probably like third string, UDFA, those type of guys, right? But it is something to kind of keep an eye on, right? It definitely is. And Aiden also does have more experience, so he should have technically been better, in my opinion. Joe Northup said playing 100% out of shotgun is not ideal. I agree. I don't think we took one snap under center, which was kind of crazy. And, I saw a comment on Twitter where someone was saying, it wasn't to me, but I was just reading a comment where, is this because the fact that Jordan Meredith, is now our center and he doesn't have a lot of like real game time action at center? Is that why the Raiders were 100% in shotgun? It's not our offense. We're gonna be in a regular, like I formation where a quarterback gets under the center. We're gonna be in those. I don't know why we didn't run any play, outside of shotgun snaps. To me, that's kind of interesting, right? I see a lot of you guys' comments. Shout out to you, Raider. Ty said exactly what happened with Amari Gainer. That's a good question, man. That is 100% a really, really, really good question. What do you guys think happened to Amari Gainer, man? Amari Gainer looked really good for the Raiders last. Obviously, it was preseason, but he looked really good last preseason. And he played tonight. He did not look good to me, right? And I cannot be the only person that thought that about him, right? I don't know, right? We'll have to go back and kind of watch the tape. I'm not sure what happened to Gainer, right? He had so much upside and so much potential, and I don't really know where he's at this point, right? But I do think linebacker is going to be a strength for the Raiders this season. Honestly, watching Jamal Adams out there, as a linebacker, if you can use your hands to shed and be as quick as Jamal Adams is, you're going to have success. Now, obviously, the Seahawks, I believe their offensive coordinator is Clint Kubiak. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's who it is. The Seahawks are going to run heavy outside zone, right? They're, it's a Kyle Shanahan type scheme. So that favors Jamal Adams. If you played, let's say, like the Rams, for example, who run a lot of duo, right, which is the O-lineman, the guard, center, tackles, they're going to essentially double team, and then they're going to get up to the linebacker. It's a power-based run. Jamal Adams may not look as good against power, right? He'll look a lot better when he can run sideline to sideline and chase outside zone plays down. So this is something to kind of keep in mind. But he did look really, really, really good to me today, right? And I want to see him. I want to see him continue to play with the ones, and I want to see him this upcoming game as well, right? Um, it's going to be interesting to kind of see some of the guys that look good today and see if they'll get an opportunity next week as well, right? And opportunity with the first team specifically. I know Devin White started for the Raiders today. I'd love to see Jamal Adams take some of those snaps as well. Um, uh, Yobo said Lockie Tassi did look good from what I saw. I saw one play towards the end of the game, man. He had a pancake block. I saw another play. He was like, he made contact with the guy and just straight up shut this guy down. There's something with Tassi, like strength wise. He looks good, right? We'll see if he can develop the technique part and if he ends up being a good football player as we go forward. Shout out to Dean. What'd you think of my guy Lockie Tassi tonight? Shout out to you, man. He looked good, man. He really, really, really did look good. I mean, I'm not just saying that just because obviously you represent him, but like he is. I think he looks legit, man. I really do think that. He's strong. He's really, 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 really strong. And I feel like obviously he'll have to develop. But the good thing with him is, he's basically guaranteed a roster spot since he's part of the IPP program. And, I think guard's the perfect fit for him as well, right? Early on, we had heard that he might play D tackle for the Raiders. I think D tackle for a player that's raw, I think it's a harder learning curve than playing like guard, for example. I think guard's a lot easier. The learning curve's less, right? I thought he looked good. Really did think that. Shout out to you. Jeff said Chip Kelly isn't calling real plays. You said that this is super vanilla. I agree with that. I definitely do. But you do want to try your concepts, right? You want to try to run your dragon and lion pairings. You want to try to run quick game. You want to try to run dagger and scissors. You want to try to do all these different things. And if you don't try it in preseason, you're not going to want to start trying it in week one, right? You want to run that stuff. Now, obviously, you're definitely not like doing end arounds and like, you're not doing everything. Obviously, that makes sense. But I still think there's something to it. If the Eagles went up to what I saw with the Raiders off defensive line, if the Eagles said, "Hey, we're about to run duo, come and stop it," I'm confident the Eagles' first team offensive line would tell the Raiders defensive line what they're about to do, and they would do it and they would execute it, right? And they'd pick up 4 yards. At the end of the day in preseason, if you run a certain run concept, even if it's vanilla, if you're good and you're coached well and it's designed well, it should still have success, right? And I didn't really see that from the Raiders today, right? And that part of it was kind of disappointing, right? I'm not going to lie to you guys. But we'll see, right? We'll see as things kind of continue. Just how the Raiders just continue to get better and just kind of continue to just essentially put it together. Someone said Trey Taylor looked bad. I didn't personally notice anything negative with Trey Taylor. I do know he played later on in the game. Thomas Harper was the guy I wanted to watch play. Now, I'm not even sure if he played tonight. I'm going to make the assumption Thomas Harper started at free safety, and he only played maybe like 1 or 2 drives, and then Chris Smith came in. I didn't notice Chris Smith out there, did not notice Thomas Harper. So if someone can confirm that, if he even played for the Raiders tonight, I didn't see him with like the second or third group either. So, but we did see Trey Taylor, which is why I mentioned it. We'll see, right? We'll see. Shout out to Edgar, said you're watching this from Yuba. I'm recording this obviously from Yuba City. So shout out to you. Ron said this is a preseason, not a Super Bowl, which is true, but the Super Bowl's won, in July, August, right? That's when the Super Bowl is going to be won, right? You got to start doing everything now. So hopefully the Raiders kind of figure it out as we keep going forward. Some people have asked about Charles Grant a little bit. D-Max says to trade Munford. Darren Munford looked really bad in my opinion. He really did look bad. And, I see another comment. Ian said to cut Darren Munford. it's kind of crazy to me because I feel like Thayer Munford looked worse today than he's looked in the past. I really do think that, and I'm not sure how you could get worse. Maybe it's because he's playing guard and not tackle in practice, so maybe he's just not looking as good because of that. But to me, Thayer Munford did not look good out there. And another thing to note is the Raiders utilized a lot of double team help on Thayer Munford's side. A lot of people talked about Charles Grant. Some people are like, he didn't look good out there. If you guys watch the Raiders broadcast, right, because there's two broadcasts, those the NFL Network's broadcast. If you watch it on NFL Network, you listen to the Seahawks guys. If you're in Vegas and you listen to it on Fox, you got the Raiders guys, right? I think it was Kirk Morris and a couple other guys. I watched the Vegas. I was watching it through the Vegas guys, right? And they talked about how at some point, I think it was when they kind of went like into the silent count. They talked about how, Charles Grant started to kind of struggle. This was right before the first half ended, right? So it's the end of the second quarter. The Raiders went silent count. Aiden O'Connell, they're trying to score before the half ended. And someone pointed it out that, hey, on this play right here, the Raiders put a running back on Charles Grant's side and they chipped. If you guys paid attention, that was the only play that the running back chipped on Charles Grant. Every other time, the running back was lined up on the other side helping Thayer Munford, right? And it didn't make sense to me because why are you helping a guy in year 3 or 4 versus a guy who's a rookie, right? You would want to help the rookie. But another thing to note is the Raiders may actually feel higher on Charles Grant than they do on Thayer Munford, right? They might feel like, hey, we'd rather help Thayer Munford. And when I say help, what I mean is, you can do what is called influencing the pass rush, right? So let's say there's 5 offensive linemen, a quarterback's in shotgun. You can put the running back on the right side. And essentially when the running back releases into his route, what he's going to do is he's going to check the defensive end. If the defensive end tries to speed rush to the outside, the running back chips him. He hits him. So the running back's running his route. He's going to chip that defensive end. Defensive ends also know this is going to happen. So what they do is they don't speed rush. They slow down and they take a narrower angle towards that tackle. So it slows down the defensive end. They know not to go wide because the running back's going to chip them. But when they take that narrow angle, the running back just releases without touching them. That's called influencing the pass rush, right? So to me, it was interesting that the Raiders put that running back to the right tackle spot, and they were helping Thayer Munford, and they weren't helping the left tackle. To me, that was just kind of interesting. But anyways, so we saw, I heard a lot of people talk about Charles Grant. I personally felt Charles Grant looked pretty good out there. He had some losing snaps. The Raiders broadcast actually did point it out. They said Charles Grant, being at the school he was at, never had to deal with the silent count. Apparently, he told those guys that it was the first time he ever did a silent count was with the Raiders. Right? He didn't know what it was, essentially. So when the Raiders went into that 2-minute drill right before the first half ended, that was the first time Charles Grant ever went into a silent count situation. And he struggled, right? He had 2 or 3 losing snaps at that point. And, outside of that, I felt like Charles Grant had a lot of really, really good reps, right? In college, when Grant was coming out, he was very strong. He anchored well. He was kind of a bully out there. And I felt like I saw a lot of those same things as well from Grant. Now, he had some losing snaps, and he has some technique issues that I think he's going to have to correct. But I am high on Charles Grant, man. I'm higher on Charles Grant than I personally am on any of the other backup guys that we kind of have, right? Dalton Wagner, for example. I think Charles Grant has way more potential. Even DJ Glaze, I think Charles Grant has more potential. I think his ceiling's higher. DJ Glaze might be a little bit better today, but I think Charles Grant will end up being better than DJ Glaze probably in about a year and a half, 2 years. And even a guy like Munford, I don't think he has any trade value. I think at this point the Raiders should probably just release him unless they end up thinking he can be like a good, guard swing tackle. I don't know if I missed any other super chats. I do apologize. I don't go live too often, by myself, so I didn't even have a platform to go live. I literally just paid $45 for StreamYard for the month just so I can go live. But I will be going live every single week, and I'll get the audio stuff all fixed out for the next live. But shout out to you, Sanjit. We really got to analyze the O-line and who we think would ball out at guard, the best around Jack Sparrows-Johnson back at center, because Wagner and Hufford are strong as hell. Uh, we got to fix that offensive line, man. We really, 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 really do have to fix that offensive line. That's gonna be the first thing I'm gonna focus in on tomorrow is watching, BJ Glaze, watching Charles Grant. Right, I do think, although Charles Grant is not ready to play tackle, are we sure by like week 5 he couldn't play guard for us? Right? Is Charles Grant worse at, let's say, for example, right guard? Would he be worse moving Jack Sparrows-Johnson to center than having Jordan Merritt at that center? Right? Because obviously, Ashton Jeanty only had 3 carries with Jordan Merritt at that center position. But like, if your center moves people, generally speaking, that opens up lanes, right? And we saw this last year where the Raiders went from Andre James to Jack Sparrows-Johnson. The offensive line started opening up bigger lanes. They started just looking better out there. We do have to fix that offensive line. I think most of us can agree with it. It did not look great out there right now, right? But I do hope more reps, right? Maybe, we get to see 20 snaps with the first team unit. Maybe that would make us feel a little bit better about that offensive line. But I wasn't honestly super excited about them. But we'll see what it is as we kind of go forward. Shout out to everybody that has tuned into this, man. I apologize for all the issues. Shout out to my brother Graf. Shout out to all you guys, man. Raiders football, man. It's here. I'll have a film breakdown for you guys tomorrow. I am tired, so I'm going to go to sleep. But I hope you guys all have a great night. Hope you guys all have a great day. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the Raiders game specifically. Let me know what you guys think, man. Drop a comment down below, and I will see you guys on the next video.